my name is Gonzalo and welcome to my channel. Today I'm bringing you my recipe for falafel and hummus. That's right, you can make this Middle Eastern classic from your own kitchen, and as you're about to see, it's surprisingly easy. My recipe also includes a special trick that makes it a little bit healthier without compromising on flavor or texture, so make sure to stick around for that. Well, I'm getting hungry just thinking about this, so let's get started. In order to make this recipe, you're gonna actually need... The reason for this is that if you use canned chickpeas like these, your falafel is gonna be way too moist and it's not gonna hold itself together. This is basically what you're gonna need. So we're gonna add 1 cup of chickpeas and we're gonna cover it with 4 to 5 cups of water. It's important that you really add a lot of water because they're gonna double or triple in size. So the first thing we're going to do is chop the ingredients. We start with the parsley. It's quite important that you pat it dry so that you avoid having excessive moisture on your falafel mixture. So we're gonna take this all away now. Next up we have the onion. Again, doesn't have to be perfectly chopped. We're just gonna chop it in big chunks. Don't worry about dicing it perfectly. And we're gonna put this away as well. Next up we have the garlic, and just a quick tip in case you don't know, the easiest way for me to actually take the peel out of the garlic is to smash it and then just pull it apart like this. And you're gonna notice that it comes out very easily. So a little hack for you guys. And again, just like the onion, don't worry too much about mincing it perfectly, just chop it in small bits. So we're gonna do like this. Take out these edges. So now we're gonna take this away. Since the food processor is not that big, what we're gonna do is split this part into 2 batches. We're gonna start by adding half the ingredients, mixing them up, and then doing the same for the second batch and bringing everything together in a bowl. We start with the chickpeas that have already been drained. Let's add around half of it. Maybe a bit more. Half of the parsley. Not to the kitchen counter. Half the onion. And about half the garlic. Let's close this up. So now we get to mixing. You're probably gonna have to pause and mix things around with the spatula as you go. So I'm gonna push everything into the center again so that it gets right in the path of those blades. Scrape the sides. This is of course gonna depend a lot on the mixer that you use. I actually love this mixer, it's quite practical. You don't want it to be perfectly mixed. You're still gonna see pieces of the ingredients and that's perfectly normal. It's actually good because once you bake them, these are gonna turn into rather crispy parts of the falafel and give it a nice texture. So I'm probably gonna do 1 more and then we're gonna move on to batch 2. So I'm gonna scrape this onto a bowl and then I'm gonna add the second part of the ingredients. So now we're gonna add the second mixed batch to the first one. And Now we're gonna mix it a bit together so that if there was more of one ingredient in the first batch, we balance it out at this moment. And then we're gonna take our dry ingredients. So we're gonna add 1 teaspoon of salt, 1 teaspoon of cumin powder, and half a teaspoon of cardamom. You can of course adjust these amounts based on your preference, but I found that this works particularly well. And we're also gonna add around 2 tablespoons of flour. You can use any kind of flour you want. Now we mix everything together. You could of course taste this to see if it's to your liking, and then you can adjust the spices afterwards. So I'm actually gonna do that. So I think that it can use a bit more cumin. Definitely biased because I love the spice, so I'm just gonna add a bit more. Now grab another spoon and mix it up again. You can also add other things to the mixture, by the way. Coriander goes really well if you like the flavor, and if it doesn't taste like soap to you. You can also add some chili flakes, black pepper, just literally do whatever you want with it. Paprika would be nice to get some sort of red falafel. There we go. At this point, you can start preheating the oven to 180 degrees Celsius or 350 Fahrenheit, and we're basically gonna start shaping the mixture into falafel balls. So I recommend taking an amount of around 1 heaped teaspoon per ball, but feel free to do smaller or bigger as you prefer. Shape them in a more or less round shape. Don't worry about making them perfect. So if you've ever looked up falafel recipes, you're probably going to know that it can be cooked in multiple ways. You can deep fry it in a pot, you can shallow fry it in a pan, or you can even fully bake it in the oven. So I've tried these different methods, and what I feel like is that if you bake them in the oven, you end up with something that is a bit more on the dry side. If you shallow fry them, they tend to lose their shape. And if you deep fry them, well, first of all, it just requires an insane amount of oil, which sometimes can lead to waste, but also makes them a bit less healthy. So what I came up with was actually a mixture between baking in the oven and searing on a pan. So we bake them in the oven for around 20 minutes, turning them halfway. And by doing this, we're basically ensuring that the ingredients bind together. So once they're bound, we're actually able to quickly sear them in a pan with very little oil and ensure that they retain their shape and get that crispy outside that everyone loves about falafel. So I'm gonna start now by putting these in the oven. So now that they're in, I usually take this time to start preparing the hummus. So hummus is probably one of the easiest things you can do at home. All you need basically is canned chickpeas and some water. You can add a couple extra ingredients that I'm going to show you today to make it a bit tastier, but all in all, that's pretty much all you need. So we're going to start by adding our canned chickpeas to the mixer. Then you can add a bit of water, or you can actually use some of the chickpea water, which is called aquafaba, to make this a bit extra. So we're gonna add around 75 milliliters. It could be that you need a bit more, a bit less. It depends also on how you want your hummus to be in the end. A bit more on the dry side, a bit more on the moist side. It's up to you to decide. The secret weapon when making hummus is tahini. We're gonna add 1 generous tablespoon of tahini to give it that extra nutty taste. We're gonna add around 1/4 of a teaspoon of salt to give it a bit more taste. And if you want, you can also add some spices such as chili flakes, black pepper, cumin, anything you really want to just make it a bit more to your preference. So once everything is in, all we need to do is just really mix. So let me show you how delicious this looks. And I'm gonna plate this nicely on a little bowl and I'm gonna show it to you guys. You can also add a drizzle of olive oil. I'm not gonna do it to cut some of the calories out, but it also goes really well. It's now been 10 minutes, which means that we're gonna flip them around. I tend to do this like this, just by hand. Be careful not to burn yourself. And now they're gonna bake for 10 more minutes, and then they're gonna go in the pan. So it's now been 20 minutes total, so we're gonna take these out and head on to the next step. So you can see that they retain the shape pretty well, and they're actually now ready to be seared in the pan. What we're gonna do is heat this on medium-high, add a drizzle of olive oil, and let it get almost to smoking point now. Make sure to swirl them around a bit, ensure that they're equally covered in oil. They don't have to cook for too long, you just want to sear them a little bit on the outside to make sure that they're nice and crispy. And they're pretty much ready. You can cook them as much as you want. I tend to go for a very light sear just to give it a bit of a crisp. We're gonna take these off the heat now and cook the second batch. Look how delicious. I cannot wait to get into these. Thank you so much for watching, and if you like this type of video, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. I will keep posting weekly recipes for you to try out at home, so make sure to stay tuned. Also, don't forget to comment down below if you have any specific recipe you'd like me to try. See you next week!